to have this group perform for the school committee, I thought long and hard about what it is we were going to do, because there's so many things that we could have shown you, especially in 5 minutes. Many different ideas went through my mind, one including doing a folk dance with you all, but I put that aside.
Oh, man.
I'd say go with that next year.
That would have been a good next year for sure.
But I settled on this. This is a piece of music that demonstrates many of the things that our students learn kindergarten through 2nd grade, such as steady beat, singing and pitch matching, musical form, creativity and problem solving, and improvisation. Not to mention performance skills and the ability to feel comfortable creatively expressing themselves. I have brought some of my 2nd grade students to play a piece of music that we started working on during Healthy Kids Week. I took a short melody from a book that I have for orphan instruments and added some vocabulary that would be fitting for that special week. And these students will sing and play the melody of that tune, and each student will also do a short improvisation using a rhyme, the rhythm of a rhyme that we learned in the beginning of the year. We have been working on the concept of improvising for several weeks now, but I have to tell you, these kids have not prepared anything specific for you to play tonight during their improvising, so you will be hearing something new and original from each person tonight. So we hope you enjoy healthy snacks. Yes?
Can I just say one thing, Joe, do you mind?
Okay.
So I noticed there are a bunch of people in the back with phones, so I'd like to invite anybody to come up who wants to get a better view of their child to take my seat. So anybody want to come up? Gentlemen with the phone way up, you're welcome to come up.
And you can stand in the center here
Ladies,
too to
if
get a
you'd like
better
come
angle
up.
as well. So
I
feel
know these
free.
shots are really important, so anybody that wants to come up and get closer, you're welcome. No takers? Okay.
Before you guys leave, we might want to have anybody have any questions or like to talk to these really talented children.
Sorry.
No, I just wanted to mention that, number one, you did a great job. And number two, I've been on the school committee for 3 years and come to these meetings all the time. And I can't remember a time when we've ever had kids from an elementary school come.
Yeah.
Usually we have high school kids who are much older and more experienced than you. And this is a great honor that you were chosen to be here to play for us tonight. So I'm very happy to have you. I'm sure we all are. And you did a terrific job.
Very Thank you for coming. Thank you. Anybody else? No?
I would just add, you hear so much about the incredible music program that Milford has, and it's clear it's starting in the earliest levels, and so I hope that you guys consider staying with it because you're fantastic right now, and just think if you do it for 5 or 10 more years, you'll be really incredible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Great
guys.
job.
We're just singing on the right
That's the 28th. Wait, that's gotta be Brookside.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. No. That's the 28th. I'm trying to do math in my head.
That's okay.
All right, good evening. Before I begin, I did forget to say good evening and say that this is the Milford School Committee meeting for Thursday, May 3rd. It is being televised live, and all media outlets are recording, and if you want a copy, you can go to them for this copy. Tonight, we have, first off, we have the open public hearing on the FY19 budget. First order of business on the agenda is invitation to speak. Do we have anybody invitation to speak? Harold?
First of all, Kevin, Marcia and I are always pleased to support in any way we can the school and appreciate the note that you sent to us.
And before we begin, Harold, just, I know you know the routine, it's mostly for the new members. Invitation to speak, we'll give you 5 minutes to speak. Say whatever you want to say, obviously, PC or not foul language, of course, but we don't have the rebuttal or anything. It's just usually the people can come here and speak their minds.
And thank you, Mr. Rhodes. We do appreciate the donation.
And as
Yes.
as I told Joe on the phone today,
Mhm.
if there should be anything like that should come up next year, Marcia and I are always happy to support the school with whatever we can do. And please, please do ask. Mr. Chairman and members of the school committee, thank you very much for allowing me this few minutes to address you all at this time. First, let me congratulate the 3 new members, Laura, Chris, and Meg, for your joining now serving the Milford community as members of the school committee. I'm sure that each of you will do, along with the other members, all that can possibly be done to continue to improve the Milford school district. As you are all aware, state law says that state money associated with students who school choice in to the Milford School District is included in the district's budget. For fiscal year 2018, that amount will exceed $600,000. And as you are aware, state law says that money associated with students who school choice out to another school district is to be paid by Milford taxpayers, not from the budget of the Milford School District. Since 2006, the total amount of dollars paid by the taxpayers of Milford to subsidize school choice out has exceeded $10.7 million. For this fiscal year, the amount of dollars to be paid by taxpayers of Milford to subsidize school choice out will exceed $1.2 million. To put that in perspective, the taxpayers of Milford have paid over $1.5 billion, $1.5 billion to the Milford School District since fiscal year 2007. To be exact, that's $514 million, and that excludes benefits and other services. It is the intent of a group of town meeting members at the upcoming town meeting to amend the school budget to deduct $1.2 million, representing that amount of money that Milford taxpayers will have to pay to subsidize school choice out. While I do recognize that any budget deduction can be viewed as a statement of non-support of the school district, in this case, nothing could be farther from the truth. This amendment will be offered since the school district simply will have less students to teach. And as such, the school budget should be reduced by a commensurate amount. I'm glad to take any questions, but if not, thank you very much, and we'll take this up again now at school, at town meeting in a few weeks. Okay,
Thank you, Harold.
thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the vote on the FY19 budget in the amount of $48,156,174. Do I have a motion to accept that? Motion from Jen, second from Jim. All in favor? Unanimous, except for Joe's not here. Next item is closing of the public hearing. Do we need a vote? Or,
I think you do have to adjourn for this.
do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion. Motion from Chris, second by Megan. All in favor? And adjourned. All right. Moving on to our regular school committee meeting. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. I'm assuming everyone had the chance to look over the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Motion from Jen, second by Jim. All in favor?
I would abstain from one set, Joe, I was only at one of the
Correct,
two I
so
just
abstain,
included,
one
sorry.
abstain. All right, next, announcements, correspondence, and distributions. And any announcements, correspondence, distributions?
So I just, actually, it's on behalf of my family. I just wanted to say thank you to the Milford Public Schools and to a number of students who actually had an impact in really saving a member of my family's life. Last week, we had some fast-acting students and staff who were sensible and proactive enough to just respond incredibly quickly. And just on behalf of our family, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to those parents who raised children who are able to act in that fashion, and hopefully every student and staff who may learn from the experience, because it was truly life-changing. So just a thank
Absolutely, absolutely. Anybody else? All right, I have a couple. I just wanted to say congratulations to the hospitality and tourism group. Today they had the grand reopening of the Courtyard Marriott. I know some of us were there, including the administration. Unbelievable. I mean, they did a top-notch job, and I think they did an outstanding job, and I just wanted to congratulate them on the outstanding work that they did. Also, I wanted to congratulate the new members of the National Honor Society that was held on April 26th. As always, it's a beautiful ceremony. Congratulations to those members as well. Do you have anything? Okay.
No,
Anybody else?
I'm all set.
All right, next on the agenda is invitation to speak. And I guess you guys are the ones, invitation to speak. So we have, what do we got? We've got Ava Morganelli and Natalie Manzini. What do you guys got for us tonight?
Last Tuesday, there was a screening of I Learn America in the Milford High School auditorium. It was a film about high school students from other countries and the struggles they face transitioning into new schools in a new country. There was a great turnout from local restaurants and vendors that came and shared food and products from a lot of different ethnic backgrounds, and it turned out really nice.
Last Thursday, the National Honor Society held a beautiful ceremony to induct the new junior members in and to recognize the already inducted seniors.
Yesterday evening, the National Art Honor Society held their ceremony to induct their new members and acknowledge their senior members that are leaving this year. There was also a district-wide student art exhibit on display in the gallery hallway here at the high school that displayed students' artwork from grades 1 through 12.
Last night was also the Strings Vertical Concert, which consisted of string players from grades 3 to 12. Next Wednesday, May 9th, at Milford High School, The Milford High School Music Department will be having its awards concert at 7 p.m. Senior musicians will be recognized, scholarships will be handed out, and the chorus band and orchestra will be performing.
Lastly, tomorrow, May 4th, is the annual Senior Citizens Prom.
Very nice, thank you. Open up to any questions from anybody in the group? Jen?
Thank you.
No? Okay.
No.
Thank you, guys, I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Great job,
Thank
thanks,
you.
good work.
All right, next item on the agenda is school choice participation, public hearing vote. What this is, we vote on whether or not we want to continue participating in school choice, correct?
Yeah, so what that means basically is, we can't, vote on whether students can choice out of Milford, but we can elect to take students who choice into Milford, and that's what we're voting on right now.
Do I have a motion for school choice?
Can I ask a question, Joe?
Sure,
Sorry.
go
Do you
ahead.
have a recommendation, Kevin, and sort of
Yeah,
how do
I
you
recommend we
assess-
continue to accept
Okay.
school choice in students.
And Kevin, when you say accept school choice, it's all grades, all levels, or are we restricting any?
So what we do is we'll do an analysis. The vote will be generally to participate in the school choice program, and then based on numbers which can fluctuate a little bit, grade level to grade level, we will either open or close particular grade levels based on those numbers.
Okay.
And that can happen during the year, can it?
Absolutely. So it'll actually happen as we go through the summer as well. So some grades are probably closed right now. I think we've got a couple of big grades at the middle school. We probably will not be accepting school choice students in. But the rest of the grades are a little bit flux based on class sizes and how those shift.
So with that, anybody else have any questions? I have a motion. Motion by Joe, second by Jim. All in favor? Thank you. Next on the agenda is reappointments of subcommittees. I've already talked to all of you and where you guys wanted to be, and I'm glad you all came back to me with your feedback and where you feel comfortable with going. I'll just start right off the top of the list. You all know who you are, but for the sake of public meeting, I'll tell everyone. With the budget, I've got Laura, Megan, and Jim. Policy, we're gonna go with Jen, Chris, Megan, and Joe. Marketing and communications, we're gonna keep it that with Jim and Joe. Wellness, myself and Jim. Women's School Building Committee, which, Jen, I'm sure you know will probably disappear sooner than later, so we'll just keep you on that. The Long Range Education Planning Committee, we've been MIA for a while, but we just got a report back from NESD, so we're gonna keep that rolling. So I've got Chris, Jen, and myself on that. Joe, I'm gonna keep you on sick bank. And Laura, I've got you on climate, culture, and morale. So that's where we stand. We will kick back up in doing our subcommittee, so if you guys have any questions on dates, times, or when you guys want your meetings, just give me a shout, we'll go over that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So just to clarify, I think the last two that you mentioned, those aren't actually subcommittees of the school committee. It's more they're committees that exist for which we want school committee representation. Is that
Correct.
the right summary? And then Craig, I know you had mentioned last week a long range ed group. I'm just curious how that correlates. Like, is that a separate group, or
You're talking school start times, I think.
Oh,
that what you're foot-
no, when
No,
NESDEC did that,
There is a long-range planning committee.
is that what?
That's the same.
It's the
That's
same
the-
group.
okay.
That's the
Perfect.
same
I
Okay.
wasn't 100% sure either.
So the
It's
people
the
that are getting together May 10th, it's that
Yep,
group.
That's the same group.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, next on the agenda is family handbook and school improvement, Brookside and Memorial. Would you guys like to come up?
Seth, do you want to come up, Rachel? You good? That was very subtle, by the way.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
How would you like us to begin?
You want Brookside to start?
Sure,
Okay.
go for it.
All right, so our first goal is common assessment analysis. We will develop and utilize common assessment analysis using a systematic approach. Right now, we obviously have common assessments and we do share results with each other. But I really want to look to extend that beyond just teams of teachers and do it by grade level and then eventually vertically from grade to grade. Again, with a more systematic approach than we have right now. To do this, we want to foster the best instructional practices in the classrooms. When we're looking at data, we can share, why students did so well in some classes and others, and share those practices that gave us success. Come up with agreed upon benchmarks in the content area. improve the inter-rater reliability from teacher to teacher for student progress, and create the environment of a guaranteed and viable curriculum across grade levels. So to do that, we'll first identify or create common assessments if we feel there's a need to create common assessments that we don't already have by grade level, and the rubrics that go along with them. Develop consistent and practical timelines that make sense for when the testing actually occurs, when we talk about them, and discuss them after. And develop the system to collect and share and analyze, which really just means sharing Google Docs and Google Sheets that everyone has access to, so that teachers are sharing all the results so that they're all of our kids and not just my kids in my classroom. And the strategy is to construct a framework for these meetings to happen, present the framework to staff, and begin the process this fall, and then implement from team meetings and grade level team meetings during TCT time and perhaps monthly meetings. So that's goal number one. Goal two, increase student attendance. This is following lead of Woodland and seeing their success of promoting the attendance and how important it is, and really reaching out to families to promote that we need our kids in school, and we're here to help you if you need help. So our goal is going to be 96% each month. Looking at the data, September is obviously our best month. It's everyone's back to school. If we can do it in September, I'd like to try and do it in all the months going across the board. So to do that, utilize school-wide parent outreach. Again, things like Twitter, like Woodland has done, and celebrate our attendance numbers. School-wide communication reporting, attendance rate weekly, and newsletters. And also building relationships with parents with kids that we are identifying as having trouble making it to school on time, which we already do. I'm hoping to have the social worker position be a great help with that in the next year. And celebrate good attendance habits of the students who do have good attendance with certificates, and again, promoting it on Twitter and social media. Third goal, professional development book clubs or study groups. This is something we started just this spring, and this goes to teachers asking for more choice in professional development and more opportunity for it. So we would put out a survey, a book would be chosen, and we would decide on a book and offer the invitation for students to come, for teachers to come after school and basically have a book club. These conversations will lead to new applications, improved existing skills, to promote the community of our school improvement, getting teachers to talk with each other who don't usually have a time to meet with each other, and serve as an opportunity to focus school-related issues that need improvement. This is where teachers will have a big say when choosing the book, what they would like to work on, what would affect them in the classroom. So I'm looking to do one in the fall and one in the spring. Like I said, we started this spring. We had our first meeting last week, and it was a big success, and people are happy about it. And I'm looking forward to carrying this out next year. And then on to goal 4, student discourse in classrooms. We were lucky enough to get the early literacy grant through the DESE, and really the big message that's come across is the importance of student discourse in classrooms. They actually showed us a study in one of the statewide events that back in 1979 they did a study with someone just visiting at home, and a woman just the researcher kept track of how much interaction there was between parents and kids, or adults and kids, and it was something like over the weekend probably over 100 minutes. They did the same thing in 2003, and we're down to 8 minutes. So students and children just don't have the opportunity to talk very much. There's lots of screen time. There are Saturday morning cartoons are over. It's a show every night. There's something always available for them. So in school, it's vitally important that we give them opportunities to actually have discourse with each other, and academic discourse. It's the foundation of literacy and being able to read. So to continue with that, what we'd like to do is to assemble a read-aloud library consisting of books that can easily be used to spark dialogue between students. Formulate read-aloud lessons that would occur at least once a week in K-2 classrooms to to give them the opportunity to have these conversations in the classroom, and look to have student discussion embedded into daily lessons, not just in literacy, but throughout the curriculum, science, social studies, and math also. So again, this is to bolster the read aloud library and identify essential questions for each title so that the teachers have something canned that they can go to right away and use something each week. Allot collaboration time for staff to create activities and build these lessons. Going in and watching classrooms during observations and monitor student talk time observed in lessons, and continue to collect and analyze student running record results in writing to see what the outcome is of this discourse, if it's actually affecting the literacy, which all research says it should. And those are my 4 goals.
Thank you, Seth. Anybody have any questions for Seth? Go ahead.
Thank you for your work on this, and I especially appreciate the last goal, and I think we can all relate to that
Yeah.
as educators and parents about what our kids are doing and what they're not doing,
Right.
and what we need to add back in. I just had a question. In terms of the common assessments, are you
Yep.
focusing on ELA and math, or do you already have common assessments there and you'll be focusing more on science and social studies, or
I think that
thoughts on that?
I think to start this next year, the focus will be on ELA and math, and
Okay.
first identify the common assessments that we currently have. Are those valuable?
Yeah.
Do we want to continue to use those? If so, are we all assessing them equally and in the same way? That's the first step that we have to make sure that we're doing. If we're not assessing them the same way, it really doesn't matter to share the data if they're different.
Right. And then is that something that you're gonna support, Craig, that work? Like,
Absolutely. And I
with-
think what I also think is important is what's happening there is happening here too. Sorry, at both schools.
yes, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then, my second question was about the attendance, and I didn't know if you had any, reasoning as to why some of these kids aren't attending school each day. Is there any pattern to that, or is it all different reasons?
It is all different reasons. I try looking at month by month, and December it tends to. November, everyone comes to school. We've got so many days off. I think families do, they do get them to school when they do have school. December takes a dip, and again in March. So I think it's a cyclical thing that goes along with seasons where, sometimes it's tough to get out of bed and get everyone out of bed and dressed and out of the house. Other than that, I can't see a clear pattern and point a finger to why it's happening.
And we've also, Jen, seen a nice improvement in Woodland's attendance based on the efforts that Tim and his team have done this year.
Right, and it's really
Yeah, that's great.
right, and the steps he's taken are great, but they're easy to do. They just have to be tenacious with it and keep promoting that we want your kids in school.
So it sounds like some of it will be from promotion from you in terms
Exactly,
of
yeah.
emphasizing the importance.
Exactly. Yep.
And do you see the social worker position, is that gonna be
Yeah,
part of this team
that could
too?
potentially be one of the things that person engages with.
Yeah, because if there's like a family issue.
Exactly, yeah.
We've been talking about what are the resources available to help a
Right.
family if they just can't find a way to function in a manner that gets their kids to school. So
Exactly.
hopefully that'll be another resource also.
Exactly. Yep.
But obviously they have to be there in order to learn it and grow, so.
Right. We want them there.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Any opposed? No, thank you.
Just, so I was on the Woodland School Council as we sort of did the attendance stuff, so it definitely resonates.
Okay.
Email seemed to be a really important factor in terms of being able to communicate with parents via email, so I don't know what percentage of the population you have emails for, but I do think that helped. You probably have already also chatted with Tim on this, but there wasn't necessarily the warmest reception, I think, when he sent like a letter to everyone, so
Right.
just, if you're gonna communicate, let them know why you're communicating,
Yes.
maybe. I think he did it with the best of intentions, but maybe for people who had good attendance, it was maybe not as well received as it
Right.
could have been, so just a suggestion.
Yep.
And also, I don't know, and not that you need to add it, but I was curious whether tardiness is also a concern, because maybe there's a way to incorporate it, come to school on time, because I do think that is pretty disruptive, so to the extent that that could be incorporated,
Yep. Exactly right.
it
Yep.
might be
No.
helpful.
Very good suggestion. Thank you.
Oh, and then I was just, I think these are all fantastic. The only other question I had is, I did look at it because you were kind enough to send it to me. Could you just speak kind of overall in terms of our plan for last year and what we accomplished and maybe what's still outstanding, or?
Right. So as far as last year, one of the big things was we wanted to push peer visits where teachers getting into each other's classrooms. Frankly, with me being interim principal, the year's been a blur. However, through the early literacy grant, we did have the opportunity to get those participants of 4 teachers So a reading specialist and one teacher from each grade level to visit another school. They came and
great.
visited us, and we went out and saw them. That was huge, and it was very rewarding to get some people who've been in Brookside for a very long time to see another school.
Absolutely.
Actually, we're setting up the next round of that to have teachers not involved with the literacy grant. Tonight I'm gonna write an email and extend the invitation out for other teachers who just want to go see another school. We're gonna do the next round of that. We'll have a visit and we'll go see them.
Excellent.
So that was probably the biggest thing for the school improvement plan that I wish I had accomplished and
Sure.
I didn't.
Was a piece of the curriculum stuff that you were doing last year, is that funneling into the assessments for this year? Like, is that just a natural flow on?
Yeah, I
on
think
that?
so. A lot of it comes from the UBD push that we were trying to get accomplished, and this is a focus on, focusing on where we're trying to get.
Yeah.
And as soon as we first need to identify the assessments that we value and that we use are gonna be beneficial, then we can figure out how we're gonna get there better. So there'll be an opportunity to look back at what we planned for the units to say, like, all right, does this really make sense to where we're going to go? That we've agreed that these are the common assessments that we want. Let's take a look again, what we planned, let's see how we're really gonna get there.
This is just a total non-teacher question. Is your goal that you're taking one math test for everyone in third grade who's learning X subject, or not?
Kind of. So in the math program that we have, Everyday Math, they have common assessments. The problem with that is, Mrs. Smith in room 29 can grade it one way, and Mrs.
Okay.
Jones in room 28 can be grading it a different way.
So it's actually the teacher's assessment. Okay, that helps clarify. Thanks.
It's both. It's identifying too, talking about the assessment, like, are these really valuable? Is this what we want to give kids to tell us what we want to know about their progress? Is this valuable to us?
Okay.
And then, if so, we need to agree on how we're going to be grading these equally and fairly.
Sure. Certainly, it's very important. My only concern with your first goal is that it seems very broad and that you're taking off a lot. That would be my only comment.
Right.
If there's a way maybe to define it a little further so that it's, I don't want to say
Understood.
easier to meet the objective, but it's clear when
understood.
you've met it, because to me, that just seems very broad, is my
Okay.
only.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
That would just be my question. Is there enough professional development time built into the schedule for the teachers to meet to accomplish these tasks?
Yeah, each week we're gonna be using the TCT time
Okay.
to get that done. It's gonna be the majority of the TCT time next year, I believe.
Okay.
It'll just have to be.
And can you tell them what TCT time is?
Sorry, the TCT time is when teachers on each grade level get to meet. They've got that one period of 45 minutes to meet and do this kind of work.
And TCT stands for Teacher Collaboration Time.
Sorry, Joe, can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Certainly, as a taxpayer and school committee member, I love no funding's needed, but for the books and stuff, Seth, is there, like, would the PTO help raise funds? Do you already have them? Just curious.
For this part,
Yeah.
it's still part of the early literacy grant
Oh,
that we
got
can
it.
get money for books. So right now,
Got it.
we're not gonna need any
Okay.
funding.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Seth. Lisa, go for it.
So our school improvement plan, our first goal at Memorial School is we'll be looking at reviewing and improving our school safety protocols, which will include the physical safety, and we also plan to embed social emotional learning into our plan and into the school environment. So obviously we have a number of safety protocols at the school, and we already are working to embed social emotional learning across the school day. However, we felt that we wanted to, in light of events across our nation, we really wanted to beef up some of our protocols that we have and our safety protocols that we have, and as well as work with the students more rigorously on social emotional learning and growing and creating responsible, respectful children and students and kind students. So we already started our work on the safety committee. This was started last year, where we were given a directive to create an emergency operations plan at each of our buildings. So that work was started last year and is continuing into this year. The emergency operation plan, Rachel actually leads this committee, and the plan is very intense and talks about almost anything that could happen. But we're really honing in on some more likely cases and how we can make improvements to those. So we'll continue to meet as a safety committee, complete the emergency operations plan and revise it. And also we found a need to do some research and some work with our adjustment counselor and hopefully our social worker to how we want to talk to our children about school safety and about some of the work and practice that we may be doing with the students that will stem from this committee. And we will facilitate those conversations as well. As part of that, obviously we want to talk to the parents as well about what we would be saying or sharing with the students in a developmentally appropriate way. So that's our goal on safety, and like I said, incorporating social emotional learning as well. Number 2 is similar to Brookside, similar to Seth's. As he spoke about, we participated in an early literacy grant this year. We both had 4 teachers as well as ourselves that participated in this grant, and we met monthly, sometimes weekly. We met often, and we went to statewide meetings and regional meetings and had opportunities to network with other school districts that also had received the grant, and it was fabulous professional development for those of us that were involved, and we learned a lot about embedding and incorporating the speaking, listening, and language standards into across all curriculum domains. So, and we did that, we learned about it through read alouds, and it was nothing necessarily new or earth-shattering to the teachers and us that were participating, but it just gave us a new way to look at lessons for the classroom and getting the students involved in having conversations, having rich language conversations about whatever the topic was, whether it's a read aloud or something else. So we want to continue that work that we did. The teachers developed and facilitated a fabulous professional development for all of the staff at both Brookside and Memorial, and the teachers were really excited. We were able to purchase 2 or 3 books for each teacher that participated in the professional development through this grant, and there was a great energy in the building that day among both schools, and everybody really wanted to keep that keep this momentum going with a strong focus on early literacy. So we will be continuing to provide opportunities for read alouds and classroom discourse. And we also, as at our school, we were planning to do monthly, but we're thinking we'll start with 6th grade level read alouds where Mrs. Driscoll, myself, our adjustment counselor, possibly the social worker and school psychologist will facilitate with the whole grade. So entire 1st grade, we will meet, do a read aloud with the students, and then break up into small groups for conversation. And this will tie to goal number 1, where we're focusing on social emotional learning. So we will, over the summer, pick our books and our topics and create essential questions to go along with each of those assemblies with students, and hopefully it will tie into our social emotional learning and attack topics like bullying, like what it means to be a good friend and things like that. Also, with the focus on early literacy, we'll be looking at our guided reading practices, and a number of years ago, all our teachers were trained in guided reading, and that was before both of my time at Memorial and Seth's as well. So we'll be looking at making sure that if anybody needs any professional development in that area as well. So again, tying all around to literacy. And our final goal, kind of similar to Seth's, but more on creating data teams. So we will be looking at data differently we'll be looking at the academic data for improved planning and instruction. So currently, teams of teachers are looking at data together, grade level teams, but like 4 teachers together. Our reading teachers are looking at data and making intervention decisions. But our goal would be that as a grade level, we will be looking at the information and helping make decisions about interventions. This also came out of our work with the early literacy grant, where Seth was actually, and his team of teachers was able to visit another school that really did this part really well, where they looked at, they were able to look at students in color code, red, yellow, and green. So, let's look at all the reds together today, kids that might be struggling or below benchmark, and what are our steps and what needs to happen. And are they still red, but they've made, 5 levels of growth, but we're still worried, but what we're doing is working. So having those conversations more in depth. And that's it.
Thank you, Lisa. I'll open it up to anyone who has any questions.
Sorry.
Megan?
Yeah, sorry. Obviously, I think the safety goal is so important just across the board. Sounds like there's a lot of detail going into the emergency ops plan. My only comment would be 8 to 10 meetings sounds like an awful lot. Like, is that what you need? Obviously, I'm totally in support of it. I'm just wondering, I don't want you to set stuff up for 8 meetings, but we have to meet, whether or not we have something to do. That was my only comment.
Yeah. I think we think for this year it would be, it's a goal that would be, we would be able to meet.
Great.
We, not only do we have some work that we want to do, we also want to keep ourselves current at all times with the information and communicating to staff. So we felt that, this came directly from staff to us at Memorial, where we were reviewing last year's school improvement plan, and we requested feedback from our staff. And this was one that staff felt strongly that they wanted. So maybe we might not have big tasks each meeting, but to say, well, what are we doing that's working well, and what are some little tweaks that we need to make? Notice that people aren't wearing their badges right now.
Sure.
And we need to get some more, beef that up a little bit. So they might not always be such lofty, hopefully there won't be as many lofty agendas. Right now, who knows if 8 to 10 is enough, but we're...
Got it. And then depending on where kind of it falls out at town meeting in terms of the budget that she put forward, it might be great to connect with that sort of special operations team in terms of getting their input on your plan, because I'm sure they'll have some feedback in terms of areas that might be worth considering. So just something to think about if that moves forward. And the early literacy grant, it just sounds so phenomenal across the board. Obviously, it's impacted you both, which is great. Was that a one and done? Is there a potential to get that again?
They're actually saying, we also had a literacy coach for the whole year as well, and we're hearing that there may be an extension grant, and if there is, we will probably be applying for it, because
and they just don't know, because right now the state is still getting their budget together, and that won't be out until July 1st, so they don't know if they're going to have it yet, but they're hopeful.
Excellent. And then the data piece, Lisa, and thinking about what does that actually look like? Is that a student's test score? Is that their letter book that they're reading? Is it all of that? I was just curious.
Yes, mostly. So for reading, we'll be looking at the running records that are being done periodically in the classroom, as well as the DRAs that the reading teachers will be doing. We still do feel, we're not sure whether we'll be incorporating everyday math as the data point, but we're looking, that is part of the goal, is to try to find a math assessment that would be similar to the running record or DRA, which would just be, an assessment to tell us exactly where the student is at that time, and with recommendations for intervention. But that will be part of what we're hoping to identify.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you both.
Mr. Chairman, can I make just 2 quick comments? Sure. Just one of your comments, Meg, about the safety plans. And we work with, and this is for all the new committee members and our considerable viewing audience at home. We work for every one of the plans we have for every one of our buildings. We're working hand in hand with police and fire, and we're sitting down with the chief or representative, whether it's fire or police, to make sure that what we've got planned kind of fits in with what they're looking for. And they have a lot of guidelines that they ask us to kind of follow in a variety of areas.
Is this more detailed than that, Kevin, or covering different areas?
So
that was my only
what
question.
will happen, across the board is schools will kind of make this an area of focus every few years.
Got it, like a refresh.
Yeah, so like for example, the high school did a few things around school safety this year with students and with faculty. And I anticipate that it just kind of rotates through like where it's a point of emphasis. And sometimes it's a staff request, sometimes a principal will say, geez, we really need to focus on these 2 or 3 things because maybe they see something in a drill or some practices that they really want to hone, or kind of get to the point where everybody feels comfortable with it, or what the various responses are.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, Lisa.
Laura?
Thank you very much for sharing. This is great goals. My question is related to the SEL. I know at Brookside we're using the second step curriculum, and it sounds like you're tying it into the early literacy grant and your goal there, but are you also using the second step curriculum?
We
I'm just
are.
curious.
Yes,
Okay.
we do use the second step.
And then you're gonna
K-
tie it
K
in
to
with
two.
the early literacy as well.
Yes, yes. So we'll continue to, same as Brookside, we'll continue to have second step lessons in the K to 2 classrooms, and this would be in addition to
In
that as
addition.
well. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Jen?
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on what Laura mentioned, what I noticed in your plan was that you had the SEL seems to have been woven through most of your goal areas, and I think that's just such a critical focus area for our district, and anywhere we can work that in is so important. I know you started the year with an idea that I stole, which was the Only One You and the Kindness Rock Garden, and I think you told me you cleared out all the rocks out of the state of Rhode Island to have your kids paint rocks that represented kindness, so I found mine somewhere else. But the other thing I wanted to mention is I think it's really hard when you work in a K-2 school to think about the safety and how do you teach, you know, a 5, 6, and 7-year-old what it means for some of these practices that we have in place that we know we have to do, but it's really painfully difficult to try to explain that to kids who are still dealing with stuffed animals and may not even make it through the night dry. And, you know, you're talking about these really serious topics. So I appreciate the effort to look at language to help our youngest learners kind of address that. I know it's part of our everyday life, but they're still really little kids, and I know we've struggled with that a lot. So I appreciate the efforts. And likewise, to look at data, I think K-2, it's such a tricky place. You don't have an MCAS to look at, you don't have an SAT to go by, so you're really looking at your internal data and assessments, and I think helping our teachers learn how to use those effectively is a great goal, and will be we'll very much support our kids, however you want to say it, yeah. But thank you for your work on that.
Yes, great job on these. I appreciate it. It's all good information that I'm sure will get done, and I think it just improve everybody's attendance and everything at the schools as well. Did you have a question?
Yeah,
Chris?
just, want to thank you for presenting all the teachers and the parents that also help out along this process. It's kind of bring their time to the table and go to the meeting. So, certainly someone that had served on the school councils, it's helpful to kind of get that outside kind of view and questions and answers from the various parents and teachers that are out there. Because we're always looking to improve our schools and the community involvement. So, sometimes with the school councils, it's hard to get everybody to go to those meetings, and you're struggling to get it. So I think it's very nice to see the various names that are on here, and certainly just want to say that in the future that other parents that are out there to, again, community involvement, stay involved, be a part of the process, because certainly what you see here to improve the schools is an important action through through promoting our schools.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you, Chris. All right, handbooks. You both want to talk, because they're both pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Do either one of you want to touch on it, or?
Sure.
Take turns.
So we did work on our school improvement plan together, and mostly in, as you could see, the red, we redlined or put in red any changes, and the majority of them were all sorts of policies and that came out from the Milford School Committee this year. So you can see, I think it starts on page 43 of my plan, and probably close to that in Brookside's as well, that all of those policies that you worked on this year have been incorporated into our handbooks. There was a few minor changes in the health update on page 22 of memorials, and that just had to do with screenings that we do that are required by the state of Massachusetts, but there are some families that choose to opt out, and this kind of gives information about opting out, and then as well as information on our fluoride program. I think the grades had maybe changed for who received fluoride, so we worked with Judy Dagnes, and she just sent us changes. And other than that, it's mostly policy updates.
I'm sure everyone had the chance to look this over. Does anybody have any questions about it?
I have just a couple quick
Yeah, go
comments.
ahead,
These
Megan.
are much more formatting than substance, so
Yeah.
it has the material it needs. I don't mean to be critical in any way on that. They were actually very consistent, which makes complete sense to me, right? We have 2 K through 2 schools, but initially when you look at the table of contents, they don't look as similar as they are. So maybe you have an intern or someone who actually has some bandwidth who could take an hour and kind of go through that. Like sometimes we use a numbering convention, sometimes we don't. They're not all named the same thing. Just as a parent, it was good, I think, for parents to feel like they're getting the same support and procedures in place, if in fact they are the same. So maybe just a comment to take away. I know it's not, everyone is very busy, so I don't make it critical, but just if there's an opportunity to do something like that, I think they are more aligned, maybe they appear initially. And then there was a reference to, I know it sounds like we've changed kind of how we do the placement. Some of them still maintained that we would be sending out the letters at the last day of school, so just to make the update so that it corresponds to the email that went out, just so that they align with that. I think that's basically it. And actually, just one other question. So we have an emergency notification policy, but then we have the mass communication use policy. Does one replace the other, or do they both continue to exist? I just wasn't sure.
I'm not sure which handbook you're. I noticed that I did have an old alert now in here, and
Okay.
I've removed that and put in the mass communication. So I think that it does replace it. The mass communication.
Yeah, it should. But we can check that to make sure it's consistent across books.
And that was just one example. One had it and one didn't, but I would assume it would be the same whether they do or don't.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's basically the same across the districts. Yeah.
Anybody else? All right, so what we'll do, we need to vote on these. I like to put them together, so if we can get a motion to accept the school improvement plans and handbooks for both Brookside and Memorial.
Motion.
Motion by Chris, second by Laura. All in favor? Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Great job. Thank you.
Sure, can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so just a quick question, Kevin, can we assume that this is the format we're gonna be using with all the schools?
We're gonna move to a consistent format. Some people have multi-year improvement plans, so once they finish their multi-year improvement plan, we're all gonna be on the same format.
Okay.
That's how Woodland looks.
That's how Woodland looks too?
Yeah, so I think Stacy did a multi-year, which I didn't want them to go through and redo it.
Okay.
So once they wrap that up, then we're all gonna be in the same format.
Okay.
It's kinda clean and simple, which is what we're looking for.
Is this current format the format, or is it a different format?
I think we're gonna probably go with this format. There might be a tweak or two as we kinda move forward.
Okay.
And I do like this layout, I mean, it highlights the goal, the strategies, the benchmarks, the funding requirements.
It's
so
pretty
it hits on
straightforward
everything
and
we need.
clean, which is what I
Right.
like about it.
I did like the funding requirements on the bottom of it too,
Yeah.
need or not need, so.
Yeah, I just had one comment on it. The plans were done differently, and it might be the first one that Seth has done. So Lisa's was done in more of they weren't really written as measurable goals, but you could see what the expected outcomes were. And there's no place on here where it talks about measurement. So maybe we could add in something that kind of forces you, as you're creating your plan, to determine, well, how are we gonna measure
No, that's
success?
good, that's good feedback.
Yeah.
I think we also need to carry them forward in some fashion so that when they bring this year's, they're also bringing some assessment of last year's, just to see these were the goals and this, whether or not we achieved them, and there may be totally valid reasons why we didn't, but just to kind of see them carry on, because sometimes they build upon each other. That would be helpful.
Yeah,
Just in a
so
summary
additionally,
format.
So to Meg's point too, if goals are not achieved in the prior year, are they moved forward or are they reevaluated?
I think both. It depends on the goal.
So it is.
So like sometimes, like I think your point was very well taken on the assessment piece. Because I think it's unlikely that they're gonna hit all assessments in all areas in 1 year. And so, I think they'll probably, about midway through the year, probably recalibrate that goal and probably carry it forward to the second year and say, we completed ELA, we completed math, we've got half done for science, and, 3/4 done for social studies.
Yeah.
Or however it kind of plays out.
But I think for them to be more valuable in my mind, just
No,
have
I
them,
hear
right?
what, I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
All right. Next item on the agenda is report of the superintendent of schools. Take it away, Kevin.
All right, so I'm going to be very brief.
No PowerPoint?
No,
No PowerPoint?
no. I'm going to spare these guys for a couple meetings.
Go for it.
We placed a big focus on educator recruitment in the 2017-18 school year, and actually the past few years. And I just want to give you an update on some of the things we've done. This past Friday, we hosted a candidate day for promising teaching and administrative applicants where they learned about the Milford Public Schools, participated in an interview and evaluation process, toured our schools, met current teachers and administrators, and were able to ask questions. And we're really trying to do more hands-on recruitment and trying to kind of keep touches with even the people that we hire, because it's become, the teaching market is becoming more and more competitive. We're seeing graduate schools of education across the country down as much as 20 to 25% of applicants and enrollees, which is going to make, I think, in some areas in particular, an already tight marketplace even tighter. So we're trying to be as aggressive as possible. Additionally, we're doing a ton of outreach at colleges. So we've attended recruitment events at Boston College, Bridgewater State, Harvard, Lesley. We have a big event called MERC, which is a consortium. How many schools were there, Craig?
I couldn't,
There's probably over 30 colleges and universities represented easily. And there's probably 300 different districts all across the United States that go to it. And it's held in Boston. And we went to a diversity recruitment event for the first time in Milton Academy. And what we do is we have a group that we go to every year, and then we try a couple different events just to see, with the value of it. Harvard we haven't gone to in a while, but we have a couple assistant principal openings, and they have a very strong administrative program there. So that's why we went back there this year. And some of our candidates have gone through the processes. Additionally, and I think this is kind of one of the more important pieces, is we've revised and revamped our overall process. So we're almost developing a Milford process for kind of interviewing. And so, we're looking at how are we screening, how are we interviewing, what are we doing in terms of selection, and we really want to become kind of more inclusive, add more voice to the process. And I think we're going to get better and better with that each year. And I know a number of you have participated in administrative kind of searches. I don't know if you want to comment on your experiences there. I don't know, Jim, Joe, Jen, or Joe, in terms of
Mine were very positive, and I think it was really eye-opening actually to see it from a candidate perspective, particularly on the principal interviews for the high school, because a lot of the candidates had done outside research, obviously, to prepare for coming in, and there was quite a bit of current theme regarding Milford, the town, the district, as far as the diversity, et cetera. So it was, I thought it was a very valuable experience.
And we've also, go ahead,
I
Jen.
just want to add, I just thought, for example, when we interviewed for the high school principal last year, I've never seen a search done in such a thorough manner. There were so many steps that candidates had to go through, and there were many, many voices that were heard around the table in terms of vetting the candidates, and even the extent that you're going through for, you think an assistant principal at a middle school may not be the same kind of limelight that a high school principal is, but you still had a very robust process for that position. And I think, somebody sitting in a room for 45 minutes, you don't know much about that person. And even with the thorough process you're using, it's always a risk.
Absolutely.
But I think all of the meetings and all of the interviews were just so professionally done. If I were candid, I would have walked away and said, wow, this place really cares about who they're hiring, and there's a lot of invested people sitting around the table.
And she's right, like the 4 or 5 that I've done, every one of them that leave that building, they're amazed in how well and how thorough we go through that process. And I know that other schools, from what I've heard, are kind of modeling how we do that business as well. So, kudos.
Yeah, so one of the things we're trying to do too is, and when we did the high school principal particularly, we had students participate as well, which was very, very valuable. Yeah. And we had a couple of students were bilingual, and they were having conversations, because a couple of candidates were bilingual too. So they were having conversations in like Spanish or Portuguese, and I think in one case somebody was talking in Italian, because a couple of them spoke. I think one of the folks that was here tonight actually was engaging in 2 different languages, and everybody else was sitting there like, but one of the things I try to emphasize with principals is when we hire a teacher, and we're going to have that teacher for 30 years, it's like a $2.5 to $3 million investment. And so if you think of it like you're making a $3 million decision, you start to take the hiring process a lot more seriously. And we're trying to kind of incorporate where plausible. Josh and his team are playing around with doing some model lessons and having students give input into the candidates, which is invaluable, because they're the experts on who good teachers are more than anybody else. And our goal is really to hire outstanding educators who are committed to student learning and growth, focused on supporting the whole child, and focused on presenting engaging and rigorous lessons. And we're really trying to tie our hiring process, like we do our budgeting and our school improvement plans and our strategic plan, all around these focus areas. And we're trying to develop questions and ways to kind of get at, are these folks that are going to kind of live what our expectations are.
Just a
Thank you.
follow-up question. On the candidate recruitment day, how did the district go about advertising that and getting candidates here?
So what we did is when we went to recruitment fairs, we had golden tickets basically. So if we saw a candidate that we felt like had a lot of promise that we talked to, Craig sings the golden ticket song from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory all the time. It's kind of embarrassing, but maybe at some point he'll do his version of it for you. The other thing we did too is if we met people in a variety of settings, we also invited them there. If we had a particular promising candidate, we would invite them. It's just a way, because we were looking at it as a long-term commitment, so we're really trying to get a sense. It's almost like a marriage. Are you a fit for us, but are we a fit for you?
Yeah.
Because that's where like employee-employer relationships can fall apart on either side. If there's, if we say things about our schools and they're not what people see, they're actually walking into classrooms, talking to teachers, meeting administrators, and asking any question they want answered.
That's great.
Can I ask 2 questions? Are there specific openings that we're seeking on
Yes.
that?
So
it's
yeah.
literally
So
these are
so
the
we're not just
candidates.
randomly like
It's for this current year, these are the openings.
Yeah,
Versus
so-
introducing them to the district, keep us in mind, we're a great place to be. It's more, we're trying to fill these.
So basically, we're bringing in what we think are current openings
Okay.
or anticipated,
Expected.
anticipated openings.
Okay.
And sometimes, if we know that there might be a potential retirement that hasn't come to fruition,
Sure.
we'll invite those folks
Yeah.
to just to be proactive.
Great. And it sounds like you're really working to refine the process, which is so
Absolutely.
beneficial.
Absolutely.
Is that going all the way to the offer letter and that person starting?
Yeah,
Because-
so we're not quite there yet,
Okay.
but we're pretty good. We pretty much have like what we want at each step of the process, and there's some flexibility depending on level, because obviously you can't have students give feedback or kindergartners in a lesson and kind of really use that as part of the hiring process. But generally, we're trying to get basically a checkoff sheet. Like, have you checked references? Have you, and we've got standard questions. We're having everybody ask for references, and we're trying to incorporate. I think there's like 4 questions that we're asking of all candidates.
Okay.
And then there's obviously there's the 4 basic questions, and then like say you have a chemistry teacher, you might ask, chemistry or high school specific type questions.
I just think also sometimes it's very beneficial to be able to be proactive and timely. So to the extent we can execute the whole process,
Yep.
sometimes quickly you can have more candidates that are able to participate fully versus losing.
Absolutely. So the last step is they meet with me, and I try to make myself available.
Okay.
And we try to make it happen within 24 hours if they're going to make an
Okay.
offer.
Okay. Excellent. Thanks.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, so once you decide on a candidate, you bring them in, those first 3 years are critical, right? Before
Absolutely.
Before they gain tenure. So are we also looking at the evaluation
And
process
that's
for those
another
first
fa-
3
that's like
years?
that's like the other side of the coin, is we're really looking closely and critically at our non-professional status teachers. And so, just about every month when I meet with the principals, there are some exceptions because we have other topics to talk about, but we basically talk about, how are the, new teachers performing? And what's their assessment of the new teachers?
Just one more question. Any update on the Stacy assistant job? I think we were going to be opening that back up.
Yeah, so we posted, and I think it's closing.
Tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow? Okay. And it was in the next couple of days. Yeah. And I know the high school is in the process. I think they might have met today to screen the applicants, and we had good pools for both of them again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
But let me just add one more thing to that. There's 2 potential outcomes of a search. One, you hire a candidate, and one time you don't hire a candidate. And I wouldn't consider one more successful than the other, because
Thank you.
if you hire the candidate that's standing that isn't necessarily the best candidate, I think you're not doing anybody a good service. So when we go back out, that's very strategic, because we don't feel like we had a candidate that kind of met the criteria that we were looking for in that particular case. So I'd rather go out 5 times and get the best candidate than settle on the last man or woman standing. Just as a philosophy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else have any questions? Nope. All right. Moving on to report of Assistant Superintendent. Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
What a perfect segue into what I'm going to talk to you about, which is mentoring and teachers in their first 3 years, or educators in their first 3 years. For our new committee members, this year our mentoring program has been under construction a little bit. Up until this year, we provided mentoring for new hires only, so teachers in their first year. We didn't have a formal program for teachers in their first 3 years, but we recognize that new teachers are our greatest commodity. They come to us with fresh ideas and genuine excitement for teaching and learning. While they may have grand ideas and understand the philosophies and theories behind teaching and learning, they lack the experience to become master teachers. I believe it's up to us being the whole district, to help them grow as educators and become exemplary in multiple areas. And unfortunately, this is not a one-year process. We believe that developing a 3-year program will help lay the foundation for our teachers to become exemplary. So the objectives for our program currently are as follows: that participants in the Milford mentoring program will understand that being an educator means that you're a continuous learner. So learning doesn't stop after year 1 or as you graduate from college. To develop a professional network within Milford and outside of Milford. Demonstrate the ability to participate in learning walks with a clear purpose and participate in roundtable discussions about what they saw. And I think that you heard, I believe it was Seth, talk about teachers making peer visits. That's what that's all about. So we're using our mentoring program to kind of help teach teachers how to go and participate in those walks. Also, to demonstrate the ability to fulfill professional responsibilities. I'll talk a little bit about that after. Engage in discussions pertaining to teaching and learning with their colleagues. You also heard both Seth and Lisa talk about data teams. We do that in our mentoring program now for second-year teachers and third-year teachers next year. Discuss how to create partnerships with parents and community members, and not just one-way conversations with parents where you're just delivering letters, but how do you form real partnerships with parents, and participate in data meetings. A breakdown of year 1, what a year 1 looks like for a new teacher. All first-year teachers are assigned a mentor, so they have their own individual mentor. It's somebody at the school. Principals are usually assigning those mentors, and up until this year, we were basically hiring mentors that either taught the same subject area or they were taught in the same grade level. And unfortunately, all of our mentors receive very basic training. It's like an hour or 2 hours before they actually get the mentor. So that's what we're doing currently. For this coming year, we're going to change that process so that all mentors, whoever gets a mentor, will be a trained mentor. We're going to have a consultant come in, and we wrote a grant earlier in the year, and we get some funds to provide 20 staff members from across the district to participate in a train-the-trainer model with mentoring. So we'll have 20 people that can either mentor or train other teachers to be mentors. So we're hoping that these 20 people will help build the capacity to sustain our mentoring training. Additionally, in the first year, mentors are required to work with first-year teachers for at least 50 hours. So that's maybe 2 hours a week, at least 2 hours a week. Some people it's more often than that, but that's what they're required. And they have to keep a log of all of the hours that they're working and what they're talking about. All first-year teachers meet with me once a month for about an hour and 15 minutes, and we discuss various topics. We're using a book by Todd Whitaker called "What Great Teachers Do Differently." And we're using that as a mentor text. So we read a chapter, and we come back, and we kind of talk about what the chapter was about. And usually it's about parent engagement or teaching and learning of some sort. All right, so then year 2, this was our first year of year 2. We've had 2 full professional days where we pulled all of the second-year teachers or educators out. I say educators because we have a speech and language person, we have an adjustment counselor, so it's more than just teachers. It goes across the all areas. And we have one more coming up actually tomorrow. The professional days cover the following topics: inclusive practices, professional responsibilities, data analysis, collaborative practice, parent and family engagement, classroom management, and then unit and lesson planning. We've actually, this year, I partnered with Mendon Upton. So Mendon Upton sends their second-year teachers over to us, and we participate together. So they're learning to grow outside of Milford and connect with teachers from different districts. Each of the sessions are facilitated by me. I've had all the assistant principals in to facilitate one session or another. Maureen Cohen, who works in Mendon Upton as the assistant superintendent, and Dr. McIntyre. We've all facilitated at least an hour or more. Additionally, for each of those different days, all the teachers participate in 2 hours of learning walks. So I reach out to the principals and I get recommendations from them on who teachers should go watch. They give me the list. We review what teachers should be looking for when they go in the classroom. They go out, they visit at the classrooms. We come back and we just have roundtable discussions about what they saw. We are also reading a book called Kids Deserve It by Todd Nesloni and Adam Welcome. And with that book, we have a Google Classroom going, and I pose a couple questions, and from month to month they have to reflect on it and then read their colleagues' posts and reflect on those too. So that's been going pretty well, actually. And then next year we in the plans, we're going to partner with Mendon Upton and also Ashland. So for next year, we'll have one session here, then one session will be in Mendon Upton, and then one session will be in Ashland, and we'll participate in learning walks in the different districts. And for our third year mentor text, which again, we're kind of building as we go, we're going to be reading High Impact Instruction by Jim Knight. So it's all subject to change, of course, because when we bring in the consultant, part of what we're going to be doing with the consultant is kind of looking at our whole mentoring program and see where we need to make adjustments. So that may change over the next month when we're actually meeting with the consultant. So those are the different changes that we've brought to the mentoring program this year. I don't know if anyone has questions.
Joe?
Yeah, so how will the new coaching positions factor into this? Will they play a role at all?
Actually, yeah, I'm hoping that the coaches can help deliver some of the professional development, because I you know, as much as I do enjoy getting up and working with the teachers, but I think that the teachers would get more out of it if they had a colleague who was up leading the discussions, and I think the coaches could do that, but I also think it helps build their relationship with the different teachers, so the teachers would feel comfortable going to them. So that's what I'm hoping.
Anybody else have any questions? Megan?
That sounds like a really strong program. Do you ever exit survey them in terms of what we're kind
Oh
of
yeah,
most
every year,
beneficial?
every year,
Great.
yeah. And obviously after every session, they have an exit ticket that they have to go by that we use
Okay, great.
and build the next one. So.
Excellent. And I think it supports the recruitment process that Kevin was just talking about in terms of building
Mhm.
those relationships and keeping people. Great.
And that's another part too. One of the other strategies we were actually going to use is as soon as people are hired, we want to hook them up immediately with mentors. You know, like, so we hire somebody today, you get a call from somebody in our district tomorrow saying, welcome, hey, if you need anything, this is my email address. If you have any questions, let me know.
And it sounds silly, but it reminds me of work. Like, send a small token, like your MHS, send something and
Yeah.
connect them to that person. And I think the sooner you can pull them in, we're a family here, I think it just builds those relationships. It goes a long way.
Good point. Pop sockets.
There you go.
More pop stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I really appreciate the work that you're both doing, going outside of Milford. I think attending all of those recruitment fairs, at all of those universities, and the other expos that you're attending, and partnering with neighboring districts. I think there's just so much that's out there that we can learn, and
I really see us building capacity in Milford by not being so insular and
Mhm.
thinking that we have everything that we need here. We have great people here, but there's great people everywhere. So I think the more that we can partner and reach out is only going to benefit all of us. So
If I could, just
Yeah.
comment on that, we're really pushing, especially our administrators, but I think having teachers having networks too is critical, because teaching can be such an isolating profession, and the more people that they can reach out to, what, you know, regardless of what the connection is, it just has value beyond, you know, you can't put a dollar amount on it,
Yeah.
but it's a tremendous value, and we're seeing our teachers actually building these networks where it's bringing, like, you know, more lessons in, different ways of teaching, different ways of collaborating, so it's been fantastic.
And I think ASCD was a good example of that, and all the people that that went, all the connections that they've made, and they make it a point to say, hey, look at this person who I've connected with, and look what they've given me. So I think it is important that we send as many people as we can to those professional conferences.
that's great.
So needless to say, we're having a lot of good feedback from these educators about this whole program. They're
Yeah.
all thumbs up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you, Craig.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. All right, Kathy, you're next.
I have for the committee's approval this evening, many warrants. The first warrant is in the amount of $72,177.66.
I get a motion. Motion from Jim, seconded by Megan. All in favor?
The second warrant is in the amount of $3,979.11.
I get a motion by Chris, seconded by Laura. All in favor?
The third warrant is in the amount of $449,651.41.
A motion by Jen, seconded by Joe. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $14,704.32.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Jen. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $1,159.70.
Motion by Joe, seconded by Megan. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $3,642.61.
Motion by Laura, seconded by Chris. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $15,470.61.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Joe. All in favor?
The next warrant is in the amount of $381,832.34.
Motion by Jen, seconded by Megan. All in favor?
And the last warrant is in the amount of $23,686.17.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Joe. All in favor?
I'm never gonna raise my hand anymore.
The school committee,
Sorry.
the school committee also has a course reimbursement request in the amount of $9,957.52.
Motion by, motion by Chris, seconded by Jen. All in favor?
And there is also a list of the latest hires and appointments from our previous meeting. This is for your information only, no vote is required.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Kathy. Next is subcommittee updates. Since we just reorganized subcommittees, there is no updates. Future agenda items, anybody have any future agenda items? Megan?
Can we just have an agenda item to establish goals for our committee for the next 12 months?
In regards to just,
Just what we want to accomplish as a group? Maybe we could each brainstorm and just come up with 3 or 4 things as a committee that we'd like to do.
absolutely.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Well, we had talked about having an update on the homework, some of the work that Craig has been doing on homework
Right, so
in the
we'll
district.
get that
Yeah.
up on the next ones before the year end. We want to get that.
I think
in
we've
there.
got a schedule, I'm just not sure
Yeah,
what
I don't
it's set up
remember.
for.
It's already on there,
Yeah,
yeah,
it is,
okay,
it is.
perfect.
Yep. I just can't remember if it's the next one. or
It
the
doesn't
one.
matter, I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
Joe?
And some of you might recall, we went through training a couple years ago at the MASC on setting goals for the school committee, so I'll see if I can dust some of that off and send it out to the committee, and maybe we can use that as a framework for doing it.
We're hot off MASC training, so.
Oh, did you guys attend?
So Megan, I went to the training, and that was one, actually, I wrote that as well. I wanted to talk to, see if you guys had goals for the committee, and that came from that.
Oh, good. It's a long day.
Yeah,
But it's
it's good.
productive. It's a
It
good
is.
day.
The perfect way to spend a 70-degree Saturday. Perfect.
All right, old business. Anybody have any old business we want to discuss?
Just a quick question, maybe, Craig. So those people are coming back, NESD, I have the acronym wrong, coming back on May 10th.
Yep,
Are they planning to do that same presentation?
a scaled down version.
Okay. And then, do you have like a core group that comes to that? I mean, obviously it's open to the
There
public.
was,
Do you already have a team assembled, or?
Yeah, what was it, 18 people or so?
Oh.
Yeah, it's the Long Range Education
Okay.
Planning Committee.
And do they know, like, maybe they've been involved for a while?
They've
and-
met with NESDEC previously.
Okay.
So when we hired NESDEC, because we were looking at
Got it.
basically what we did, just to give the committee a little background, is we convened that Long Range Education Committee. I think they met maybe 3 to 5 times, and we came to the conclusion that the next step needed to be the development of a long range facilities plan as part of the process. So we went on hiatus while that
Okay.
process went on. The conclusion of that was the presentation you saw at the last meeting, and so the group is reconvened.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
And we'll get a time and date when that happens.
It's May 10th?
May 10th.
May 10th, yeah, May 10th for,
And I'm sending out a
NESDEC.
district-wide, as part of my monthly update, to just kind of invite people.
And I was spreading the word, but I wanted to make sure whether or not
Yeah.
it was the same, okay, thanks.
Yeah, May 10th.
Thanks.
And
Not
that-
80 slides though.
Well, that's what I wanted to
Alright.
make
It's
sure.
only gonna
I
be
was-
77.
Or were they able to get that down too?
So can I just clarify, Joe, do you mind if I?
Sure.
Is the long-range planning committee, are you expecting it to be the same group, or are you putting it out there to see if new people are joining, or are you seeing?
No, I think it's the same group. There's a couple people that couldn't stay on, so we
Okay.
replaced those folks.
So we're just filling those
But we're
spots.
also
Okay.
opening it up to the public so they can
Yeah.
kind of ask questions based on this analysis that we've done.
Okay, great.
All right, and we do have executive session tonight, correct?
Mhm.
All right, so we will not be coming back. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
We have to do a roll call.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Correct, thank you.
No problem.
With that executive session, I need a roll call.
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, and with that, can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion by Jim, seconded by Joe. All in favor? Thank you and good night.